Becca.
And Vincent. I'm Colin. And Stacy.
Howdy, my name is Evan and this is my informative speech on the salt flats in Bolivia. After visiting the Salar de Uyuni, Leslie Murphy, who is a travel blogger, said, "It is true. Heaven is a place on earth. I have found paradise in Bolivia on their salt flats, which are the world's largest. It is by far the most incredible landscape that I have ever laid eyes on." The place that I have decided to speak about is Salar de Uyuni, which is the largest salt flat in the world in southwestern Bolivia. And I want to speak about it because despite its incredible beauty, it is somewhere that is unknown to most. It is such a beautiful creation of nature, it looks like something that should have been drawn on a piece of paper. After seeing the picture that Leslie posted on her blog, I did some research on this amazing place, and I know that it is one of the places that I want to visit in my lifetime. It is in the nature of humans to want to explore their surroundings. Not very many would be okay with just staying in the city they were born in and never exploring what's happening around them. And so I hope that by the end of this speech, y'all will add this to your list of must-see places. During the rainy season, which is January through April, a little bit of water sits on the ground, which causes the reflection of the sky to go back down onto the salt, and it's just this beautiful backdrop, which is why I chose this place. I just think it's breathtaking. It creates an unbelievable view, and it's like standing in the clouds. Yet, there's so much more to this place than just its undeniable beauty. There's a really interesting story about how it was formed and also some cool animals that survive in this odd environment. So firstly, we're going to talk about how this salt flat was formed. It is made up of halite, which is this element that forms just table salt, and also gypsum, which is something that makes up like plaster and drywall. And the size of the salt flat is approximately the same size as the big island of Hawaii, which is pretty interesting. According to the encyclopedia of earth.org, over 20 years before the present day, the salt flats were covered in paleo lakes, and dictionary.com described the paleo lakes as an ancient lake, especially one that does not exist anymore. In a NASA.gov article about these flats, it states that 15,000 years ago is when these paleo lakes started to recede, and the land below them was shown. It's in a trapped basin around it, so there's kind of a raised mountains around it, which means there's no really outputs for it. So the water that was stuck in here evaporated slowly, and so over time these compounds like the salts and the gypsum and stuff that was formed, they evaporated slow enough to create the thick salt that lays on top of it, and in some areas the salt is over 10 meters thick. The second main point that we're going to talk about is the animals that live in this extreme environment. So intactnature.org states that Uni, which is in the name of the flats, translates to the English word enclosure, and we just talked about how it's kind of surrounded, it's like in a basin. So the people who inhabit this area, which is Salar, that's the city around it, call it the pen for animals, because there's really no coming and going for these animals. This is kind of only where they live. One of these animals is called the colpio, which is in the rodent family. It's kind of like a chinchilla, and it's really interesting that that's kind of one of the only things that survives here, and it doesn't really eat very much, and it survives off the water that collects there. The other main animal that lives on there is the Andean flamingo, and this is one of the rarest species of flamingo in the world. It's kind of shocking to see like their pink bodies on the backdrop of Because it is surrounded with no outputs, the wind does not really run through it, so the deafening silence kind of makes its huge space magnified. We learned how something so beautiful is formed and how some of the animals that live in it survive in that ecosystem. In our lives, we can get caught up in our day-to-day trials and tribulations, yet when we see something as beautiful